Right. Yeah, sorry, I'm just getting my magnet assembly so I can show you what we're having basically. So these are basically the slots. So these are all one pole, all of these here in this area. So let's just draw this on a piece of paper. So I've got this, this one. Now the output is proportional. In other words, you can have a longer array of magnets, you can actually generate much more energy. But the only snag, the only catch really, the only trade-off is the exit point. That is when the rotor leaves the coil. Right, I'm just drawing these on here. Now, so all we need to do, I mean, this coil, the coil that's over here, basically, let's just draw this coil here. Right, I'm just going to do a box. So this box, this coil, the more power that coil generates, the more power that coil generates, because most of the power is generated when as the rotor enters the coil. There is no lag, there is no drag there. I've been testing this actually on here. What I did was I actually did some tests with the entry coil, which is this one, in both directions, so it was in series with this coil over here, and no matter which way around, it does not reduce the drag because the RPM didn't change. So that entry coil doesn't really have an effect, so we can forget about the entry point because it doesn't load on the system, because the load has to be there first before you can have the drag, which is the chicken and the egg situation basically. But the chicken basically has to come first because otherwise you wouldn't have the egg. Well, so anyway, so the rotor basically, right, like this, I'm looking nice and bright so you can see it. Right, so this is the entry point. Right, this is where it enters. Right, this is the entry point as it enters the coil area. Now, it's the exit point that we need to worry about, because you see, once this magnet, but when it passes the coil, after that point, we need to get rid of it. You know, we need to push it out of the way. So, but there's quite a wide field of, the flux is quite wide. It's as I've shown in previous videos, it's really very big. So we can actually wait until the actual last magnet, this magnet here, is about here, because we have, this is where we have most of the drag, right at this point here as it's leaving. So when this magnet here is an expulsion coil, which is actually a lot closer. If you look at my actual build, oh, I can't show you now because I've got the brackets in there. Yeah, well, you can see it underneath. Now, let's get some light on it because it's a bit dark. Now, if you look, you'll see the exit coil is actually right under there. Now, is because it's going to be weaker. It's a lot weaker, so we need it closer to the magnet as it's passing. So here's the exit coil. Oh, now what's going on with it? So here's the exit coil. It's a lot closer to the rotor assembly, but we don't until this magnet is basically directly above here. So what I should have done, really, I shouldn't have drawn this out in pen because I can't rub it out now. Right, okay. I think my stream is having a fit. Something is anyway. Right. So anyway, so when this point here is over here, right, which means that our magnets are basically 1, 2, 3 like this. What I can do really is just cross these out. Ignore that. Just a minute. I don't want to confuse people, that's all. Right, ignore everything that I put a red blob over, right? Ignore these because they're where the red blob are at. This is our exit point. So at this point here, now what we do is charge electrolytic non-polar connected across our coil. And the reason for that is because this coil is in series with that coil, so this is also connected to that. I got the entry coil because it doesn't seem to make much difference, and that's our output waveform. So we have our coil in parallel with this capacitor, and the capacitor snubs, it's a term we use, snubs the coil so the coil can't be energized immediately. It takes a while for the capacitor to charge up. We only want a few microseconds. Well, yeah, microseconds. It depends on the speed of the rotor. So if this rotor is frozen up again on me, what's he doing on me? I don't know why. So we need to snub the coil and to buy ourselves a few microseconds of delay before this magnet is directly above the coil. At this point, the coil that's generated the energy, and the greater the load is on the system, the more power is shunted through this capacitor. So if we have a short circuit on the output coil, then that capacitor is going to charge up very quickly, which means it's going to have more energy. Now, we don't want it energized before the exit magnets are actually over this coil, because what happens over here is charged up, then the coil is going to be energized and it's going to cause drag again. So we're going to have it pushing against the rotor instead of pushing it away. It's going to be pushing the rotor back in the direction it's just come from. So we need a few microseconds. We can achieve that. I'm going to have to stop the stream in a minute because this phone is just it's acting really crazy right now. It keeps freezing on me. I think it's YouTube. It's the gist of that. But that's the only thing we need to worry about really is the cut-off, is cutting that bloody phone. Stop it. What's it saying? 11, 25. Oh, the frame rate's dropping. That's what's going on. It's just nuts. Anyway, so we need to delay the pulse. It's not really a pulse as such, it's a bias really, because this coil will be biased in repulsion, expulsion of the rotor as it's leaving, so we don't have it hanging onto that coil basically and wanting to stay there. So yeah, I've been testing with I've had 10 microfarad non-polars caps, but they're really to carry the current that's going through there. Like we're talking about 100 milliamps or more. I mean, they charge up too quickly, really. So I'm thinking of the region of 47 microfarad to possibly, well, or 22 to 47 microfarad would probably be about right. So yeah, I ordered a bunch of them anyways. So 22s. Well, I got some 10s, some 22s, some 47s, and some 100 microfarads to test with in a few days, so we can find out which value is the best. I know it works. I already tested it with the 10s. It improves the output current, so it's just a question of getting the right value in there. With all my other capacitors and twisting those together to put them back to back so I can create non-polars, because it's going to waste all my capacitors. I just want to use capacitors for the job really, and I've got some on order pretty cheap, so I don't care if they're cheap from China either. I mean, as long as they work. It doesn't have to be that perfect for this. All we're doing is driving a coil. So we're talking about this coil basically going to be energized with something like probably 4 volts or something, which is more than enough to compensate for the drag. Well, and the drag is simply torque, really. In reverse, it's reverse torque, because when you apply a voltage to a coil, we call it drag, but it's simply reverse torque, because we're simply pushing the torque towards the coil instead. So it's the same thing, really. So all we're doing is counteracting that torque, which we don't want, as the rotor's leaving. Anyway, I hope you understood that. I'm sorry if it was jittery on you. I don't know if it was, but the phone is just crazy at this end. My frames per second are all over the place. So I'm pretty. Oh yeah, I think I'm gonna have to quit, because this YouTube's obviously having some issues on my internet. Anyway, that's it for now. Hmm. Oh, bloody phone. Look. Okay.